Welcome, everybody. So, as you can see, we're here to talk about the two different doctoral programs that CITE offers, and we offer that in conjunction with partners, and we're going to talk to you a little bit about that. So, thanks for being here. Thanks for being on time, taking time out of your busy day. I used to call this the witching hour at my house because all kinds of things are occurring, whether you're just getting home or you're, as some people are in the car. If you have others in your house, it's dinner time, or you're trying to put something together for dinner, or if you have children, they may be tired and wanting your attention. So I really thank you for taking the time to be here with us today. So just the agenda real quick. We're going to do introductions, and you're going to find as I go through this, I don't read from the slides. You certainly can read the slides yourselves. So you're going to watch as we do this. And one of the things that I tell everybody, so those of you that have been with these on these presentations with me before, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you, and then I'm going to tell you what I told you. That's actually in the research and helping things enter people's consciousness. You should tell them in any presentation at least 3 times. Typically, if you can, over time, not in one presentation, but over time, tell people things 7 times, and then it really becomes part of their consciousness. So as you engage at this with me, you may say, he already told us that part. And I do that purposely. So just so that you're aware of that. And of course, then we send it to you. So in some ways, you're going to hear or see this at least 4 times. All right, so just some real quick introductions. I'm Donald James. I'm the executive director here at CITE. I've been with the company for a little more than a decade. I was an adjunct, and then I became the executive director, just about 4 years ago. Prior to that, I was superintendent of schools on Long Island and in New York City for about 20 years. I served as a substitute teacher, a staff developer, principal, assistant soup, and then I became a superintendent. And I did that for some time, and I really felt like I was complete, like that I'd done everything that I wanted to do in that field, and made a determination that I didn't want to be retired. I wanted to do a different type of work, which was to continue to give back and support people who wanted to enter either teaching, school leadership, counseling, mental health, or nursing. So those are the types of programs that we offer now. And so this is indeed what I actually do. So I work within these programs, developing programs and supporting you as you engage in this journey to work in schools and do good things for kids. So welcome. I'm going to turn it over now to Mia.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mia. I'm newer to CITE. I've been with the organization for the last couple of months. I have my doctorate in education. I have a focus more in higher education, and I'm supporting on the academic side of the house as it relates to your journey with CITE and the doctoral programs.
Hold on, I lost you there for that. Was me. I did that, by the way. I'm the one who presentation. For some reason, I hit the button inadvertently. So thank you, Mia. Actually, I have a little typo here. It is Mia James. It's not Marie James. That's my fault. Tom, do you want to say hello, Tom?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Tom Connor. I've been with CITE for about 18 years, and I work with the admin program as well as the SPU, St. Peter's University Doctorate Program. So I look forward to hopefully working with you in the future. Some of the names I see look familiar. That must have done the school leadership program at some point.
Yep. Thank you, Tom. So who were we? So a little bit for those of you who don't know CITE, and some of you may, because if Tom recognized your names, you may have been through our SPL, SDL program, so you understand who CITE is, but some of you may not. And sort of what's our role in all of this? And I'm just going to do this real quick. Our role is to partner with colleges and universities to provide programs for people in a way that is a little different than if you attend a sort of typical college campus. We make sure that we partner with high quality schools. So we're talking about Russell Sage and St. Peter's. These are two very well-respected, accredited institutions. We make sure that we then partner with them to design something that's very convenient for you. So whether we're talking about where it's offered or when it's offered, it's convenient. So when I started my doctoral program, some time ago when I was at NYU. We had to go Tuesdays and Thursdays. I was teaching, I was becoming a principal, I had children, I was coaching, all these things. I couldn't do it. So I stopped. I just said, I can't do this. And at some point, then they said, and I knew the chair of the department, and they developed basically a program very similar to this one. It was run on Saturdays. And I went to school with a group of others in a cohort model, and we engaged in the program. And I was able to do it. I was able to complete and do my dissertation, and I did it in 3 years, much the way the programs that I'm going to talk to you about here are designed. Some of the things that they didn't do, that we do, which is we provide it in an affordable manner. We didn't get a discount on tuition. We negotiate as sort of the third party here, a discount in your tuition. You do not pay the same tuition as students who are attending those schools, whether they're attending it through a virtual model or in person. So you're getting anywhere between a 15 and a 25% discount because you're working with Site. How can we do that? How can Site do that? Well, for the most part, it's because we don't have the overhead. We don't have campuses. We don't have legacy costs. We don't have all of those things the college campuses have. We don't have collective bargaining agreements, so we're able to provide this at a reduced cost. It's really a unique model. You don't find many models like this. That helps you. So you're getting the same professors, you're getting the same curriculum, you're getting the same everything, except you're getting it at a different time of the week or even day, and you're getting it at a different location, but you're getting the same instruction and the same curriculum. We also make sure that the coursework actually relates to what you're doing in your actual work in schools. So that, we certainly believe in the philosophical underpinnings and we want you to have all of that. But how does that relate to what you're doing when you're out there working in schools in leadership? What does that actually mean? If we talk about double loop learning, if we talk about continuous improvement, how do you actually put that into practice? And you will find that we have built that into the programs here as well. I always believed in that when I was doing my work at NYU, and then when I moved on, I actually started my adjunct work at NYU, and then left and came over to Site. And somebody asked me that, "Well, why? Why did you do that?" I said, well, because I'd be perfectly frank at NYU, and I loved NYU. I'm an alum of NYU. I have nothing negative to say about NYU, except it was a more traditional model when it came to instructional practices. It wasn't necessarily as related to what I was doing when I was out in the field. And at Site, these programs have for generations actually been designed in such a way that it relates to what you're doing in the field. So you're getting the philosophical underpinnings and the practical application simultaneously. And we find that's really important for long-term success when people leave the programs. So in short, our programs are designed for working professionals and from all different walks of life. And you're going to find there's all different walks of life who enter this program, and it's designed to support you in that success. So you might say, why a doctorate? Why would I get a doctorate? Number one, for me, it's professional self-improvement. You dig deep into your learning. And it was really interesting when I came up with my a dissertation topic. And first I wanted to study school culture, and I started talking about organizational learning and theory. And what did that actually mean in schools? It turned out the number one thing the teachers wanted, and at that time, the research was clear. And I think you'll hear that a lot now. What do teachers want? Time. They want time. Are there a list of other things the teachers want? They want support. They want professional growth. They want a fair salary. They want time off. They want flexibility. Time was at the root of what they wanted for professional growth, and they wanted it to be related to their work. That came out in my research. It was really interesting. I didn't know what I didn't know at the time. Then we're going back now, 25 years. I'm sorry to tell you. I know I look like I'm only 45, but I'm a bit older than that. The other thing it does for you, and let's be realistic, it increases your career opportunities in K to 12. I mean, there is no doubt about it that once you have an earned doctorate, it increases your career opportunities. Whether you want to become a deputy superintendent or a superintendent of schools, or you want to work in some other field within the industry, it absolutely gives you that leg up, for lack of a better term. So when you're applying for jobs, if you actually have a doctorate, an earned doctorate against someone who doesn't, it gives you a leg up. It's not the deal breaker necessarily. You still have to be able to deliver, but it gives you that leg up. And there will be lots of openings in senior level positions over the years. So the shortage that you always hear about in the teacher ranks, it exists in the administrative ranks and then the senior leadership ranks for the same reasons. People are retiring, people are leaving the field. As teachers retire and leave the field, so do principals, superintendents. There are some statistics that indicate that 25 to 40% of all principals will be leaving the system, all systems in New York over the next 5 years, between retirement or moving into other positions. And when they leave positions, the assistant principals move into them, the principals move into superintendent's positions, and many of you, I'm assuming, are looking into becoming senior level leaders. And those positions are everywhere. The other thing it does for you is it gives you post-career opportunities, right? So when you're finished, like I was done. I don't know that I would have landed this position if I didn't have an earned doctorate. Become an adjunct, become a full-time professor, open your own firm. You want to do consulting work. That doctorate not only supports you with regard to credibility, but with your ability to perform. So it really has a multi-level why you would want to have an earned doctorate. So why choose a CITE doctoral program? All right, so we talked about some of the things. Well, it's inexpensive. Well, that's great if it's inexpensive. Okay, there are going to be career opportunities out there. Okay, you're right. Why would they hire you if you went through one of our programs? We're going to talk a little bit about that. And some of it we'll be able to tell you is from a track record perspective. And if you can look at this illustration on the left, 25% of all school administrators in New York, 1 in 4 in New York, not just New York City, in the entire state, went through a CITE program. 15, 50%, or 15 of the 30 superintendents in New York City, and there are about 30 of them in New York City. I know if you, those of you who work in New York City, they have all these different titles, but the ones with superintendent titles, half of them went to a CITE program, including the current chancellor went through the CITE program, including the previous chancellor went to a CITE program. So it opens that sort of door for you if you're interested in becoming and working in those types of positions. So we'll talk a little bit about how the program is designed for success, that it's innovative, that the price is there, and the delivery model. So we do some things that are a little different than some of your more traditional delivery models. Hold on, I got somebody there. The design for success part, the number one reason people don't finish their doctorate is they don't complete the dissertation. All right. So you didn't come this far, meaning you didn't do all that coursework, and it's going to be 45 credits or so to get something called an ABD, all but dissertation. So our programs are designed in a way that leads you to that completion and finish line at the end, so that you start working on the dissertation from almost the minute you enter the program. Because if you're going to complete the program in between 2.5 and 3 years, you have to start working on that dissertation immediately. And you will be guided through that step by step in both programs, whether we're talking about Russell Sage, which is one of the doctoral programs, or St. Peter's. So there are 2 programs that we offer, Russell Sage and St. Peter's. And I'm going to get into those programs with a little bit of detail as we move through this. And we make sure that you have seminars, that you have support. Some of them are provided by the college, and some of them are actually provided by CITE, because we build them in to support you. So again, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you what I'm telling you, and we're going to talk about some of the program components now. I'm not going to read through these. These are those components that are going to make sure that you're successful. The cohort model is really powerful. For those of you who have been through the school building leader, school district leader program with us, you'll know how powerful that is. We'll talk about the alumni, we'll talk about the professors, the curriculum we've already begun talking about, and the delivery model. I think that's too far. So at the crux of as a part of our delivery model, aside from whether we're talking about hybrid or, is how did we design the program? So as you look at this continuum, we make sure that you've got a balanced delivery approach. So sometimes we're talking about hybrid, whether we mean synchronous virtual learning, asynchronous virtual learning, or in-person learning. So we make sure that we're getting things from 3 different modalities so that that supports you and the work that you do. We want to make sure that you have support the entire time. So if you're in an asynchronous course, sometimes you don't even meet the professor. You're doing it in these other programs. That's not the way it works here. If you're in an asynchronous course, this is synchronous, as you probably know. Asynchronous means everything's posted online, you're watching videos, you're doing assignments, and there's a place for that. Except with some programs, you never actually meet the professor. How do you answer? How do you get questions answered? We don't have any 100% asynchronous courses. You will always have some in-person or synchronous component where you can engage in conversation. All right. We want to make sure that we focus on your workplace realities, whether we're talking about how we're delivering the program to you or what it is that we're delivering in the program. So the how and the why are really important. All right. So there's a lot of engagement. And of course, assessments, by the way, your number one assessment is going to be your dissertation, right? It's a published work. In the end, you will have written a book. And yes, it will it be strenuous to write? Sure. But anything worth having is, it's going to be hard to do. I think about less than 4% of the population in the country has an EDD, which is a really, really small percentage. And there's a reason for that. So if you are intelligent, and you are, or you wouldn't be here, you've got a master's degree, you're working in the field. If you persevere and follow the guidance, you will complete and finish that dissertation. The cohort model. I'm not going to, this slide for 100% sure I'm not going to read to you. You stay with the same group of individuals the entire time you're in the program. You can read the research right here as to why that's important. So I'll tell you, I was in a cohort when I did my program at NYU. I'm still in communication with those individuals today. And why? Because as we were going through the program, one, we developed common interest, we developed friendships, we developed professional relationships. All of those things were certainly there. But as you're going through this, life happens. It gets hard for you for one reason or another. You're exhausted. Something's going on at work. You change jobs. You have a baby. Any number of things occur. And then those individuals support you. I remember we had so much to read, we would do shared readings. So we'd say, oh, they would give us a book and say, you got to finish this book by next week. I'm not suggesting we do that in the CITE programs because we don't, but they did. And we'd say, okay, I can't read this book by next week. I've got a board meeting, I've got this thing going on, I got that thing going on. Oh, and by the way, I have a couple of kids at home. I can't read an entire book between now and then and understand it. And we would divvy it up. And then we would get together on Thursday night, and each person who read 3 to 5 chapters would then share what they learned in those chapters with the others. So those shared readings and study groups were really powerful. In the end, a whole bunch of us ended up working in the same, at the time, for those of you who go back to regions in New York City, remember when they had, 10 regions? We all worked, about 5 of us worked in Region 7, which if you remember school districts was 20, 21, and 32. So Brooklyn and Staten Island. So we really had a great relationship. Well, I'm still in communication with them today. Some of them professionally. Every year we get together at least once a year, sometimes twice a year, and have dinner. So that long-standing personal professional relationship is really, so the cohort, I can't say enough about the cohort. So the meat and bones of the program, but sort of this structure is really important. So the network, I've already talked about this a little bit. I really can't stress this enough. Aside from the fact that when you enter the field and you're working on moving up in the field, if somebody sees your name and that you went through a CITE program, they know you know what you're doing when you're out there. I, as superintendent, hired 8 psych grads in a district with only 6,000 students. Some of them I knew were psych grads. Some I initially didn't, and I hired them and I thought, oh, these people are really good. Then I learned more and more about CITE. Then I started becoming an adjunct to CITE. I would meet students in class. I would hire them. In fact, I hired a couple now in to work at site. Not, you don't see them here tonight, but they do other work for us. And we hire them to be adjuncts all the time. I will tell you immediately, if you went through a site program, we look at you if you want to be an adjunct for us. Or if you want to be a mentor for people doing their internships. So there is a lot of benefit to that alumni network. We will share with you, we have just launched a new a digital alumni network called Site Connect, which is in essence, it's like the site LinkedIn. So all of you will have access to that. And with that, you have these job boards, mentoring opportunities, seminar opportunities, understanding of where other people work. You'll form formal connections, informal connections. You'll know where your peers and colleagues are. And you're going to see that they're all over the Northeastern region. So that network is really important to you. So the program itself, and I thought, how am I going to do this? How am I going to share exactly what it means to be in this program? I just put the two programs side by side. But you can see they're basically 20 classes for each one. So we have St. Peter's and we have Russell Sage. So the program itself, a lot of it is, the curriculums, there are similarities and there are differences. The pacing is fairly similar, but there are some differences. And we're going to talk a little bit about that as we go through this. You will notice as you look at both of these that there's dissertation writing. And it starts early. You will have your dissertation chair. Your dissertation is in the end, your final paper. You will start working on what it means to write a dissertation. You will start working on the chapters. So there are 5 chapters. One of the hardest ones to write is actually your research. And how do you do that? You're what they call the literature review. That takes a lot of work. We start that early on, and that will actually help drive what it is that you're interested in really digging into. So that's one of the reasons we start early. So the programming itself, how are the programs designed? Now, before I get into this, I will tell you that this isn't the be all end all for you to engage in learning about these programs. I'm going to ask you to complete a survey at the end of this to determine which one of these programs you're interested in learning more about. We'll send you an application, and then we'll invite you to an open house where we'll get into the real deep details about the program. It looks like I lost some of my slot. Oh, no, I didn't. And some of the real deep details about each program. So, and I'm trying to do this side by side so that you have a sense of what they are and some of the differences and some of the similarities. So are there asynchronous classes with St. Peter's? Yes, except that it's never 100% asynchronous. And what's the benefit of asynchronous? In essence, you can complete the work associated with that course at your own pace within the parameters that the professor sets up. So you don't necessarily show up for class when the professor says you should show up for class. You show up for class when you can. There are live components to that where you would be engaging in conversations with the professor. And I'll get to that when we talk about the in-person classes. For Russell Sage, there are no synchronous or asynchronous classes. That said, that doesn't mean that there wouldn't be assignments that you would be given online and submit online. Okay? The in-person component. So because the St. Peter's program is largely online, whether it's synchronous or asynchronous, 5 Saturdays a month, you attend in person and you attend with your cohort. And we do that at a regionally convenient location. Right now, it's been on Long Island because most of the people are on Long Island, but we've seen an increase in interest in offering this in either Brooklyn or Westchester. So then we look at where do we have a critical mass of individuals, and then we run the Saturday programs in that region. So I fully expect that we will run Saturday classes, the seminars that you see here, either in Westchester or Brooklyn or both, starting this coming fall. The way it works for Russell Sage is this Friday night and Saturday all day once a month. That's run at 2 different locations, one on Long Island and one in Manhattan. Okay, so those are the real delivery models. So you've got for St. Peter's, you've got synchronous and asynchronous and 5 Saturdays a month. And if you've got Russell Sage, it's all in person, Friday nights and all day Saturday. And some of that is really a personal preference. What do you prefer? What model works best for you? What suits your lifestyle? What's your learning style? How does this work for you? What fits for you? Some people say, I can't do Friday nights and all day Saturday. I can't do that. But I can do the synchronous learning. I can do the asynchronous learning, and I can attend these 5 Saturdays a semester. So once a month, you would appear. Um, it's not always all day. Sometimes it's half a day. Sometimes it's in the morning. Sometimes it's in the afternoon. It really depends on where you are in your program. During those sessions, you're going to get dissertation support. You're going to have support of your colleagues and things of that nature. Remote dissertation support, both of them have that. When we say remote dissertation support, what does that mean? So it means you have access to your dissertation chair. You also have access to tutors if you need support in writing. You have access to librarians. So you probably realize not many people actually attend a brick and mortar library anymore, right? But you also need that support. You still need a librarian to help you locate books and resources and periodicals. And so you get that remotely. And in fact, you hear stories from our students all the time that these librarians are responding to you evenings and weekends the entire time because they know if it's 9 to 5 or 8 to 4, you're working. You're not working on your dissertation. You're not doing research. You're working. So it doesn't really help. So they really have modified their schedules to give you that support. There's also in-person dissertation support, meaning whether you can look at these times that you meet in person, you will get dissertation support there. They will literally work with you as you're writing your dissertation. And all of the professors have New York City or metropolitan area experience. And why is that important? It's important because they can relate to what it is that you're doing in your schools, the research that you need or want to do in your schools, as well as your work and what's happening for you with regard to your work. Listen, and I've worked in other regions, in the country, and I will tell you that it's not the same. Just isn't. Long Island and New York City, Westchester, that is completely different than other regions. And they will understand that. And not only the interests that you have, because you're working with different demographics, but also your workplace realities. So it's really important that we do that. All of these professors either have a doctorate or have some level of expertise that you can't get anyplace else. They all go through specified training regarding the course content and the delivery. And we do that annually, all the time. So they're on a continuous improvement cycle as well. So you're getting really access to some of the best professors you're going to find anywhere. So what is it that you need to enter the program? It's really pretty basic, to be honest with you. Um, and by that, what I mean is if you've done everything you need to do to become a master teacher or a master principal, that you've got an SBL, SDL, that you have a master's degree, you likely have everything that you need to enter the program. So there are some requirements for the program, each one. So to the St. Peter's program asks that you have a teacher leader position, and that's desirable at minimum. You don't have to be a school leader. You don't have to be an assistant principal or higher in that hierarchy. You don't have to be a principal, but you have the desire is that you had somebody, that you chair a committee, were you engaged in committee? Did you lead some program in your school? Because there are different ways to lead other than positionally. So you get a position doesn't make you a leader. You can lead. Those of you who work in schools often know sometimes the most significant leader in your school is not certified as an administrator by any stretch, but that person in a lot of ways is leading. And we want to make sure that that's recognized. So you don't have to be in any of those unions of any kind. In fact, you don't have to be in any union. You can be in a union, but you don't have to be. So what happened here. For the Russell Sage, you have to be in an administrators union. So you have to hold a position that gets you into an administrators union, either state or local. So the most common in the city is CSA, which for those of you who work in New York City and you're a city administrator, you know CSA. SAANYS is the administrators union for the state. It's almost like NICET. And each one of the school districts outside of New York City has what they call a local. So in Comac, it's the Comac Administrators Association. You know, in Brentwood, they have their administrators association. So you need to be in one of those unions to get into the Russell Sage program. Those are probably the two biggest differences with regard to admissions requirements. Credit-wise, it's 45 credits if you do have a school building leader certificate. And for Russell Sage, it's 46 credits with school building leadership. If you don't have school building leadership certification, each one of those programs has an additional requirement of 9 credits. So that being said, chances of you getting into the Russell Sage program without the SBL and getting 9 credits are slim. So you would really want to look at the St. Peter's program. So if you're a teacher and you don't have a school building leader certificate, you apply here, and then you would take an additional 9 credits, and we help build that in throughout the program. You have to have a 3.0 in your master's program. You can see the various locations where these things are offered, where the programs are offered, and that is enrollment driven. If we have students, we offer them in those regions. If we don't, well, then we don't offer them in those regions, which makes perfect sense. Admissions. So for St. Peter's, it's true rolling admissions. If you apply within 5 to 7 working days, you will know whether you're admitted to the program. Right. So you apply to the program, you submit all of your paperwork, 5 to 7 days, you're going to know. They might say, oh, we still need more paperwork, but you're in. So that's not necessarily the way it works at Russell Sage. You apply, they wait until all the paperwork is in, they review them all. They're reviewing them now, actually, for the fall. They conduct interviews, and then they start the admissions process. So you would learn probably in July or August whether or not you're admitted in for the fall. We already have the St. Peter's right now. There are already 22 admitted for the fall. So if you're really interested in rolling admissions and planning, that's great. If you really want the Russell Sage because you like that model, then you have to look at that and make that determination. The process and the deadlines. There are 2 starts for St. Peter's, one in the fall, you can see down here, and one in the spring. So you can apply if, let's say, you miss the application timelines for this coming fall, but you're still interested and you don't want to wait till next fall. You don't want to wait till fall 26. You can apply to start in the spring. If you apply to another program at another school, which I won't mention, they're not named here because I love both of these schools, then and you didn't get in, you can apply and get in, in spring for the St. Peter's program. So, and why might you not get into some of the other programs? A lot of those other programs, and this was true when I went to NYU, had very limited number of seats. They wouldn't take any more than 10. That was it. 10 a year. But that means a lot of people who were very well qualified didn't get admitted to the program. What we do is based on the number of people that apply, we open more sections and hire more professors because CITE knows everybody. We go out, we recruit, we hire professors, and we open additional sections. For a SAGE, there's only one start. The deadline is, as I mentioned earlier, July, and you start in the fall. So it's a great program. The costs are roughly the same. You can see the cost there at the bottom. There's financial aid in the form of student loans, if you're eligible, and most people are, or payment plans. All right. You don't qualify for grants. Neither one of these schools, and I don't know any schools that really give out grants for doctoral programs unless you get a fellowship, which usually means that you can't work. But we don't have that. But what we did do was negotiate tuition rates that are substantially lower than any place else. I will tell you, when I went to NYU, and it was a long time ago, Per credit was double what this is now. Per credit was double. So the tuition is really at a substantial discount. So before I go on to the survey, and I'm going to ask you to complete a survey in a few minutes, it's a very short survey. I want to field any questions that you have. If there's anything you'd like to know, I'm going to leave the presentation up. I can go back to any of it if you like, and answer any questions. So really what we're asking you to do tonight is make a determination about which one of these programs you're interested in. We'll send you an application, and then we'll invite you to an open house specific to that program so we can dig deeper into the details of the program. So we would get into a lot more details about the actual curriculum. I think that's probably the most significant difference there. And we would bring people from each of those schools so that you could meet them. And we would get into some of those details. So this is meant to be an overview to help guide you. Some people don't realize when they say, oh, CITE has a doctoral program. Well, no, CITE has two doctoral programs. And there are differences. They're not identical. So there are similarities because we have our parameters that we believe in, but then there are differences. So I'm going to open up the floor for any questions. Adult learners, you could just pop in. If you raise your hand, great, and I call on you, great. If you don't, you can pop in. I'm really okay with that.
We have some questions in the chat. If you've put a question in the chat and you're comfortable asking that out loud for the good of the group, that would be great because there are some good questions in here.
Mia, if you want to read a couple.
Sure, I could. So one person asked if they've completed the SBL SDL program with CITE, is there less coursework or classes that need to be taken?
So that, yes, indeed, which is the 45, depending on which program, 45 or 46 credits. If you didn't complete an SBL SDL, then you have to take 54 credits. So you have to take an additional 9 credits, depending on, obviously 54, 55, depending on which program you're in. The discount is already built in. There is no additional discount. The discount is already built in.
Yep. People were saying which one. So they're receiving the survey, Don, that will have them sent the appropriate application. Is that how that works? Because they're writing
Yes,
in the which, yep.
I just posted the survey in the chat.
So a lot of the comments, which is great, people are talking about which one they're interested in. What he just sent in the chat is what you will, instead of putting it in the chat, please put it in there so we can send you the appropriate information.
So if you click the link in the chat, it will bring you to the page that you see here on the screen. Now, most of if you wanted to read through this doctoral survey information, it's going to be the information that I shared with you as I went through the PowerPoint. If you scroll down a little bit, you would click the one that you're interested in. I'm not going to click one because I'm not trying to steer you toward a preference. You would click one of those. Actually, I'll just pick the first one. And then you would talk about, where did you go to school? All right. Then you would say, have you ever attended a CITE program? Yes or no? If so, which program? And then you put in your name and information, and we will send you the application. I think if I do mine, right? Actually, I didn't attend a CITE program. I'm sorry, I didn't. I mean, it's this simple. I didn't attend a program. Mine, you just fill it in. And it's that simple. Once you click submit, you will receive an application the next day. Tom is here. Tom, are you the one that's going to send out the application? Oh, Tom, I think had to log off. One of the things that we believe in our company is that work-family balance. And Tom's daughter had a track meet tonight and absolutely didn't want him to miss that. We have a lot of these meetings. So Tom, we want you to be with your children. We design these programs for you so that works. We want to make sure that the people that work for us have those same opportunities. So all you have to do, Tom will send you the PowerPoint presentation and you will also get the application. So that's all you have to do is fill in the application. And then you would get invited to another open house if you want. If you wanted to come and hear more, you could. You continue to read about it. You're going to see that there are web links here that will steer you to, here there's a chart where you can look at some of the differences. So it just summarizes how long does it take, the cost. It just puts it all in sort of an easy chart format for you. All right. We will tell you completion rate is really important. 85% of people complete these programs in time. And that's 2.5 to 3 years. It used to be the average was 5 to 7. Why is it 2.5 to 3 years? Because we have you work on the dissertation from the start of the program. So people used to do the coursework, take 2.5 to 3 years to complete it, and then take another 18 months to do a dissertation. Now you're at 5 years. And over 5. And why is it important to try to truncate that? It isn't because we want you to get through the program faster. It's because the longer you're in a program, the more likely it is that something's going to occur in your life that's going to take you off that track. Something happens, whatever it may be. And a million things happen. I mean, I will tell you during my dissertation in my cohort, one guy lost his position because the chancellor changed. And we know what happens when the chancellor changes. People lose their positions for no reason. Amazing individual. Another person had a baby. I changed jobs. Another person lost their husband. Another person had to relocate to Virginia. There were only 8 of us. So we started with 10, 2 dropped, and we all still finished in the 3-year time frame. But if you go to 5 years, then there are other things that can occur. So that's one of the reasons we want you to try to complete this in time. You may also be near the end of your career in public ed and you're looking to get into higher ed, or you're looking to do another position, or you're looking to move into a superintendency. When I did it, I wasn't anywhere near the end of my public education career. I was looking to become a superintendent. I was also looking to dig deep into my work and really understand my work. But I also wanted to become a superintendent of schools. It was that simple. You may say, why did I want to be superintendent? Boy, that job's a headache. Let me tell you, there are headaches associated with being a superintendent of schools. When I was teacher, I didn't like that I couldn't get the things I needed in my classroom because I thought the principal made all the decisions about the resources. So I said, okay, I'm going to become a principal. I became the principal and I said, I want all these things for my classroom, and found out I didn't have control of all the resources. Because you mean your priorities, really, people can say what their priorities are, but when you see where they put their resources, you know where their priorities are. So I said, okay, I'm going to become an assistant superintendent so I can have some control over the resources. And guess what? Assistant superintendent doesn't have control over the resources. If anybody in the system has some level of control over the resources, it's the superintendent. And in the city, that's the chancellor. And of course, there's deputy chancellors. And depending on the system and structures that you work in, there are varying levels of control. So control is a very limited term. Nobody has complete control over resources, but you have more control. So I could make determinations. No, as superintendent, I'm not going to recommend that we buy more cars for buildings and grounds. I'm going to recommend that we put more money into X. Pick whatever X was, based on the shared vision that we had developed within the schools. And if it was school safety and security, if it was professional development for teachers, if it was smaller class sizes, if it was additional book supplies and materials, if it was pick it, then I could help redirect those resources. Where in those other positions, I couldn't. So I was really about distributive leadership, servant leadership, and that's part of what you will learn in our programs. It's distributed and servant leadership. We don't teach sage on the stage. We don't teach control. We don't teach hierarchy. That's not what we teach. Our programs aren't for that. Some people are interested in that. That's not our programs. We don't teach who's the boss. That stuff doesn't exist. It isn't about, position doesn't give you authority. I shouldn't say it does give you authority, but it doesn't make you a leader. For those of you who work for a bad leader, just because that person has that position, they're not as good as you think they are. All right, so the floor is open. I'm going to stop talking.
Okay, there are more questions in the chat, so I'm going to continue with those.
Thank you.
Is the Russell Sage in-person location Friday night / all day Saturday once a month in New York City and or Long Island?
Yes.
Okay.
So the one location is, for those of you who know CSA, it's actually the CSA office conference room. It's in downtown Manhattan. And Long Island, I believe we're offering that in Oceanside, which is Nassau County.
Okay.
Okay.
Will this be the first cohort?
I'm sorry?
Will this be the first cohort is a question.
No. I don't actually have the numbers. I will tell you that for St. Peter's, it would be the fourth cohort. For Russell Sage, I think it would be the ninth cohort. So no, this is not first cohort stuff. These programs are established.
Yep. Do we have a list and bios of the professors available for the St. Peter's program?
Uh, we don't, but we could. But we can certainly give you a list and the bios of the individuals who would be your most significant support. And by that, what I mean is the folks that run the Saturday program. So the folks that run the Saturday program will become your dissertation chairs, they become your readers, and they give you all the academic support. So that's a great idea. Actually, we should. I know this is being recorded. We could put this on our website so that you can see who those individuals are.
Great. One person said, I'm a retired New York City school principal. Am I eligible for either program or do I need to be school-based?
You're eligible for either program.
Another person says, I completed the SWD certification, hold a Master of Science in Applied Math elsewhere. How many credits would I bring along? I think that would be an individual.
Yeah, that's a more of an individual. And if you haven't, we'd have to look at that. I'm going to guess, it's just a guess, that you would bring 9 credits and be eligible to St. Peter's for, in essence, the SDL. So you would bring in 9 credits. So that would give you, what is it, 45 credits? Yeah, 45 credits. So here, so it says students without an SBL, but my guess is, and it's just a guess without actually doing a review of your records, that he would be eligible for the 45 credits program. We've had similar cases where they were eligible for the 45 credit program. Unfortunately, well, fortunately or unfortunately, there are no credits. You can't reduce anything lower than the 45 or 46. So they don't accept neither one of these programs, nor any program that I know of actually accepts transfer credits in that reduces the 45 or 46 any lower.
All right. I started the application on the Russell Sage website. Is that the correct process, or should I wait to get the application link until after completing the form that we provided on the link?
So I can't be sure. What I can tell you is there are 2 different applications on the Russell Sage website. One is for CITE and one is for non-CITE. So if you started the CITE Russell Sage application, then that's the correct one. If you didn't, that's the incorrect one. Now they would guide you to the correct one if you said, hey, I'm downstate and I'm part of the downstate. We call it the downstate program. So when you get the app link, you can compare them and make a determination, or you can call Tom or Mia or email them and they'll be able to guide you.
One person says, I live in Colorado. Is that an issue?
If you live, and that's interesting because we do have some students in Colorado.
We do.
As a matter of fact, you would not eligible for the Russell Sage program, but you are 100% eligible for the St. Peter's program. And we do have students in Colorado.
Yep.
In fact, the site grad is the superintendent of Denver Public Schools. You probably know that. Alex Marrero, who did start his career in New York City. Then he was in New Rochelle, and then he went out to Denver. He and I are friends. We started talking about starting a program out there. So they do attend remotely. Then their Saturday support is remote. It just so happens that one of our Saturday support persons will be going to Colorado on an unrelated matter and will set up an opportunity to sit and meet with these individuals. If that group were to grow, so right now I think there are 3. If that group were to grow, we would actually hire somebody there to offer in-person sessions for individuals if they were interested. So yes, you are 100% eligible for the St. Peter's program.
Excellent. If you don't yet hold an SBL and would like to take the additional classes, is there an asynchronous option?
To get an SBL,
That's what
we do not have an asynchronous SBL option. We have a hybrid option, which is synchronous 60% and in-person 40%. That's our model. We don't have an asynchronous. We don't. I'm not saying whether there are other asynchronous programs out there. I don't know the answer to that, but I do know that Site doesn't offer asynchronous.
We talked about the discount. The discount you said is built into the rate that's published already.
That is correct.
Somebody is suggesting that 3 years seems to be a longer time for a doctoral program than she's seen. Some of the ones she's researched are 18 months. Why is this one 3 years?
I all I can tell you is that the pace of the program, in order to actually complete the coursework, we have not had anybody complete in less than about 24 months. If somebody goes breakneck, we have had people complete in 24 months. You may see 18-month soup to nuts if it's a full-time program. But again, without having that, these are the fastest programs I know of.
Yeah,
I will tell you from my perspective, I would want you to be engaged in your learning over a period of time that is supportive of being able to dig in a bit more. So I don't want to say anything beyond that, other than I don't know how you could do this in 18 months, our programs, if you are working full time.
Yep. I will say I completed my doctorate 2 or 3 years ago now, in a model not too dissimilar from what we're talking about, and mine was a full 3 years. So there might be ones that are 18 months, but there are certainly others that are the 3 years is a pretty standard offering. How long is a semester?
15 weeks. That said, the semesters are 15 weeks long. You will see that coursework may be chunked differently. So you may find sometimes that each course runs the duration of the semester, and you may find that sometimes a course runs for half a semester, and then the second course runs the second half of the semester. Part of that has to do with the contents of the course. So when you're doing the dissertation support, which is a course where it doesn't necessarily have seat time, that takes the entire duration. So they chunk it differently, and some of that is going to be based on your pace, and some of it is based on the course content. That was a great question.
This person says, I'm currently a deputy superintendent in New York City. Is the program at Russell Sage flexible enough for me to align my current work to the work of my doctorate? I'd like to further investigate and deepen the work I've already begun.
I will tell you that we absolutely have had, and probably do right now, people that are deputy superintendents and even superintendents in our programs that make it work. Yes, that is deputy superintendent in district. I won't say because I don't want you to know who he is. You may not want me to share that. Just finished last year, and he was deputy superintendent the entire time. Quite friendly with him.
Great. So I think I hit all the questions in the chat. Oh, here's another one. Does the New York City program require you to travel to Albany? And if so, how often?
No, there is no travel. Neither one of these programs requires you to travel to any of these campuses. You don't have to go to Albany. You don't have to go to New Jersey. You don't have to go anywhere except for what you see here. So if you're in the Long Island location for St. Peter's, there are times when you're going to have to travel there. If you're in the Manhattan or Sage, there are times you'll have to travel there. But no, you do not have to travel. Those, ever since COVID ended, the state actually removed that requirement. It was called a residency component, and the state used to require it. They don't anymore. So those requirements are gone. Now, some schools still do. Our schools don't. We negotiated that away. We're actually just not in a doctoral program. We have another program, our counseling program, until now, used to have a residency component where the students had to go up there. If they wanted to be a school counselor or have a master's in mental health, had to go to Alfred, which I don't know if you know where Alfred is, but it's basically Canada. They had to go up there for a week every summer. And we just negotiated that component away because they're no longer required by the state. Another good question.
What are the current hours for Friday and Saturday for the Russell Sage program?
So it's Friday evening. I want to say it starts at 5 and then ends around 9. And then the next morning, it's basically an 8 to 4. Is there some movement there depending on who's teaching? Yes. Yeah, there's some movement there. And sometimes there's an evening component on Saturday as well, depending on the course and the person teaching. If you came to that open house, you could get more detailed information about the hours on Saturday.
Those are all the questions I have. Those two came in, as I was saying, those were all the questions that had come in.